Love it.
Right? All right. Hi, everybody. Okay, we're live. Welcome, everybody. It is Wednesday. Hello, we got three of us today. It's Wednesday. It is, not only is it Wednesday, it's National Pinot Noir Day. So we are here. What better day, right? We all have our Pinot in front of us. We just finished up some bottling at the winery, so now we have more Pinot Noir than ever. I don't know what Ben's
bottling. This is a response to bottling. This is a shiner.
Did that come off the line today?
Yeah.
You already took it off?
I took it off the line another day.
Showing off. Oh, who's our guest? I know, Dan. I have a labeled one, Ben.
There you go.
Anyways, Ziggy is our guest today. Ziggy, known as the Wine Gal. She's very well known pretty much around the country, around the world, here in this area. But welcome, Ziggy. I'm going to pour some 18 Russian River so I can drink while you talk. Cheers. I think she already poured some too. Ben's got to catch up.
Oh, yeah. I had to get started early because, you know, I don't want to miss the boat.
No, you never want to miss the boat. So, Ziggy, tell me a little bit about your background, all this good stuff.
Hi, my name is Ziggy, and I drink for a living. Welcome, Ziggy. And I grew up in San Francisco, but spent summers growing up at my grandparents' ranch in Arizona in the hills of Prescott. And so I'm a little bit country and a little bit rock and roll. We can talk about the rock and roll and the country in a little bit. And I've been in Sonoma County, raised my daughter in Sonoma County, who's now a winemaker and in the wine world, working for an importer currently. So our life has been about wine really for most of it. So and living here in Sonoma wine country has been the best thing ever. So I was in what my daughter likes to call a real person job some years ago. And I was in the stock brokerage business. And all the while I was really into just wine tasting and collecting wines. And this is going in the way back hot tub time machine to the 80s, the early 80s. And
1980s?
Yeah. And so, but wine has always been part of my life. I grew up with wine at the table in a very unpretentious way. And now I drink for a living, and it makes all the sense in the world.
I think that's awesome. And I'm assuming especially, well, first of all, your daughter is now in the wine business, which is funny.
I tried to talk her out of it.
She didn't consider that a real person job.
It's a great business to be in.
It's a great business to be in. And you have so many friends.
We all love it. We all love it. And now we geek out about it. And I never thought that would be, that I would see the day. So, you know, like summertime, we're into these like super kinky, racy kind of white wines, like Rieslings and, you know, Gewürztraminers and all these aromatic whites. So now I'm sitting at the dinner table with my daughter trying to enjoy dinner. And she's like, I don't know, Mom, are you getting petrol on that? I'm getting kind of petrol. I'm like, really? Are we having this conversation? You know, 101 things you never thought you'd talk about with your kid when they grow up, right?
Never thought you'd hear them say that. But it's kind of fun too when I know I geek out on wine. I love it. And when I get around people that geek out on wine, I almost love it more because you learn. The more you know, the less you know. You learn more. Everyone's palates there's some differences, how you intake things. And it's fun hearing what other people think, taste, and just their general opinion and their back history, because your back history brings in a lot, which is fun.
You know, I mean, at the end of the day, I like to enjoy wine just for what it is. I don't want to feel like I have to get geeked out every time I have a glass of wine. Sometimes I just want a glass of wine, and it's hard sometimes for me to turn that off and go, what am I smelling? What am I tasting? It's like it's just part of my natural makeup, and you know, I often think, God, can't you just have a glass of wine and just have a glass of wine? And I'm like, I don't know if I can, but I try really hard. But my whole thing about starting my radio programs really 25 years ago was to take the pretense out of wine and to bring wine for everyday living to all the tables across the world, and that you don't need 4 and 5 syllable adjectives to describe wine. In fact, it's just fermented grape juice. It's supposed to go with food. It's delicious alone. It's great in cocktails. It's good for all those things. But one of the funnest things that I get to do and that I love to do and to take the unpretentiousness out of it is to bring to the forefront and support our smaller local wineries, not just here in Sonoma County, but also in our neighboring counties, and even in Paso Robles, in Napa, in Lake County, in Mendocino, and Willamette Valley, all these areas, even in Italy and France and Spain, these tiny, tiny winemakers, that just make minuscule productions and are truly handcrafting wines. That's really where my heart passion is, and to be able to do whatever I can to support them so that everybody hears about the Papapietro Perrys, these rock star winemakers that you wouldn't know of otherwise, unless somebody went on and on and on. And Lord knows I can go on and on and on about it. But
I agree.
But that's one of the funnest parts of what I do when I drink for a living every day.
Well, and you drink for a living because you are a radio personality. You judge wine. You now are into cocktails as well. So wine and cocktails, you've expanded. You do podcasting. You are all over the place, a wine writer. You do a radio show every week. In fact, this morning, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll put the link in if you want to catch up on some of her shows. I was listening to one earlier. They're a lot of fun to listen to. You have great personality and great energy, and it's fun. And I love the fact that you're not pretentious about it. You are bringing it down to that. It's wine. Enjoy the wine.
Right. I mean, and I can get there when I judge an international wine competition. I can get there and I can critique every little bit about that wine and smell and taste and flavor profile. But at the end of the day, when I'm on my radio shows, I might be like, hey, what? Guess what? This is a great patio pounder. End of story. That should be all the description you might need for it. You want to have a glass of this Pinot, not just because it's National Pinot Noir Day, but because it's a rock star Pinot, and you should just be enjoying it because it's a rock star Pinot. We don't have to sit there and go, but I'm getting red fruits and dark fruits and spice and all those things that I am getting. But like my sister, for instance, I have my little sister. She lives in Virginia, and no matter what, I spend a lot of time with her. We talk every day. We're super opposite, but we're very close. And I just say, now what are you getting? I send her a wine and I'm like, aren't you getting this kind of just jammy deliciousness? And this smells and tastes like Russian River Valley. And she'd be like, it tastes like red wine to me. And I'm like, really? After all this time, that's all you can give me? Is it taste like red wine? She goes, well, better that I tell you it tastes like red wine when it's a red wine than I tell you it tastes like a white wine when it's a red wine. I'm like, okay, there you go.
It tastes like grapes. Tastes like grapes to me.
Right. Right.
That cracks me up. What are you? Okay, so now I guess I'm going to have to put you to work. What are you tasting out of this Russian River 2018 Russian River Valley Pinot Noir? It is a blend of 5 vineyards, all in the Russian River Valley. Ben, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're doing well.
I'm right?
Yeah.
So a blend of clones, blend of vineyards.
For me, the most important thing is when somebody puts an appellation on a bottle of wine, no matter the appellation, for me, the most important thing is that I can smell and taste that appellation first and foremost, that sense of place. And I think that you guys have always been able to achieve that. Every time I'm tasting a sip of your Pinot Noir, it's like a thumbprint of that appellation for me right in the glass. And that's to be commended. And it's really cool when I can judge some of these wine competitions and I can smell and go, yep, Russian River, okay, Sonoma Coast, okay, Willamette Valley, whatever it is. But when I'm smelling this Russian River and the 5 vineyards that you have blended in here, I'm just thinking, this is just a glass of deliciousness. And it's all those things from all those vineyards that come together in one glass that you want to taste from Russian River. All those beautiful, rich, jammy, cherry deliciousness, but that baking spice and a little bit of black tea and some wonderful forest floor. It's like, it's got all the components. When you look at a spice rack, you go, yes, it's got that, and that. And it smells and tastes like Russian River Valley. And it's like, okay, check that off. Goal achieved. It's delicious. And it's like a one-way ticket to an appellation, especially right now when some people are choosing to not travel. And if you're listening or watching from far away and you go, I want to taste Russian River Valley. And it's like, okay, here it is right in the glass. This is your one-way ticket to Russian River Valley right here with this 2018 Papapietro Perry Pinot. It's delicious.
I love you saying a one-way ticket to an appellation, because I always say, especially we are not distributed very much out in stores. You might find us in a restaurant here and there, but I do believe when you come visit, Sonoma County, you come visit the winery and you bring wine home with you, or you're part of the wine club and wine is shipped, you open one of these bottles and you are transported back into your experience, into sitting on our patio overlooking the vineyard. And you're right, you stick your nose in there and you're
it's so amazing. I mean, it's all that. When you smell it, it's like, okay, this is it. This is all that. It's got everything, you know.
We definitely want it to be seductive enough that once you put your nose in there, you get the schnoz in there, and it makes you want to put it back in there a couple more times, you know. So I think that's kind of the key for me, is that it almost is better smelling it than tasting it. Until you taste it, then definitely you want to taste it some more. But
so, and you know, to your point, Ben, and that's such a great point for me, because I taste thousands of wines a year, literally. And for me, the wines that I love the most are the ones that I find I keep coming back to. I keep wanting to smell it over and over again, because you're getting a complexity there. And the more it opens up, the more things you're getting out of it. And that's so cool. It's just like a playground with endless toys in it. You know, it's like, wow. And now I'm getting this.
We were lucky. 18 was a beautiful harvest. The fruit came in beautiful. We did not too many problems. You know, every year we're faced with other problems, different problems, but 18 not so bad, and we were pretty fortunate. And I think it reflects the growing season in the Russian River, especially the Russian River Valley, because it has so many different layers that really represent what is grown in this area. At least to me, anyway.
Oh, it's
Ben, you're amazing. You're consistent year after year. You take the valley, you take what happens there, and you really transport it in the glass too, which is Ziggy, you have a fan in Lisa. There you go. One of the busiest and most demand wine personalities in existence. Isaac, so fun to see you with Kristen and Ben. Lisa's awesome.
Aww. You know, it's interesting. I started my radio program 25 years ago, and I was the first woman in the United States to ever have a radio show about wine. And I didn't know that at the time. And in fact, it was kind of a weird way that I got into it, because I was doing voiceovers and I got a commercial to voice this commercial, ironically, about a winery, and end up talking to the producer. And he's like, if you could have anything you would want, what would it be? And I'm like, I would want my own radio show to talk about wine so that I can make it for everyday living and take the pretense out of it. And that's been my thing from day one. And if I can look at this wine, like I was just looking at it and smelling it and tasting it, and think, this is a playground with endless toys. That to me is the perfect description. You know, I mean, it's like you keep going back, you keep wanting to taste it. Your palate is on a joyride constantly with this glass of wine. And this is what separates good wine from not so good wine, is the fact that this has it all going on. And I like that right out of the gate. You know, a real famous winemaker once told me that, because we got into this discussion about decanting wine, Heidi Barrett. She said, Zig, I am a true believer that you should drink wine right out of the bottle as it's presented to you. Because I sometimes geek out and I'm like, I'll even decant rosés and white wines, and I age white wines, and I age a lot of red wines. And she goes, you know, drink it how it's presented to you. Wine is a living thing, and I believe that you should enjoy it like that. And I always think about that every time I go to get geeked out about wine, and should I do this or should I do that? Or you know, a lot of people that listen to my show will email me and say, do I need a fancy $500 decanter, a $200 decanter? And I'm like, no. Do you have a juice jar? Like, put it in that if you just need to open the wine up and then pour it back in the bottle. But I you know, for me, it's all about the passion. And I can't always put it into words, but what I do know is when I'm taking a wine like the one that we have here with the Russian River, the blend of the 5 vineyards, and I'm thinking, this to me is a huge reminder of that I love what I do every day. When I'm smelling this and I'm tasting this, I'm like, this is why I do what I do, and why I travel around the world in search of my next great glass of wine. And here I don't even have to go far, because the Russian River Valley is where I live. So
no, you don't have to go far.
I have a geeky friend who loved this about decanting. So he's more of a cab drinker. So he'll put a bottle, pour it into the food processor, the blender, and blend it,
Wait, who does this? You're not saying me.
I'm not going to tell you, but.
Oh my God, I did it as a joke. When the pandemic first hit, we were looking to, ways to keep people engaged. And so we started doing this weekly update. And my co-part, I won't mention his name, but it's Dan, suggested, we're talking about aerating wines in different ways. Right. And we put it in the Vitamix. It did not make the wine better. And it did make it on the ceiling.
Foamy.
That
did make it. Oh my gosh.
I don't know about that, but when you're doing what you love to do, you think about all the different ways that you can share that passion with friends, maybe for the first time and maybe every time that you break bread or have a dinner party or whatever. And we entertain a lot here in Zigtown. And I'm always trying to pull things out that will mesmerize my guests and make them think about how delicious things are. And it doesn't have to be about the geeky notes. It could be like, I don't know what it is about this wine, but I keep going back to it. And now as I'm switching over to same vintage, but your Pommard Clone Pinot. So I've got that in the glass now. And how interesting it is just to try, this single clone situation. And, somebody like my sister, because we'll bring her up again, because I talk about it all the time. She's my muse, really. And she'd be like, what is a clone? What really do I have to get? It smells like red wine. What is the difference to me? Why should it make a difference? And what is it about this particular wine that is going to taste different than the last one? It's the same vintage. It's the same appellation. Why is it different? Ben, what do you think?
So, well, because I've been experimenting with clones for a long time. And one of the things that I discovered like in the early 2000s was a single clone grown in one place is good, but rather one-dimensional. But that same clone grown in lots of different areas have different soils and microclimates, add different depth. So I started experimenting originally with the Pommard. I had 2 vineyards at the time. We were pretty small. So we did the Laris and the Peters and mixed them together just on a flute. And they were so much better together than they were separately that we decided to make the 777 clone, and it was well received. We've added another vineyard to that. Now it's 3 vineyards that we make the Pommard clone from, and the 777 clone has 5 vineyards in it. One clone from all these different areas really gives you much more depth than a single clone from a single vineyard. Is rather one-dimensional. Mm-hmm. This way you get more characteristics of that particular clone if it's grown in other soils and microclimates.
Ron mentioned here that he always tries to include several different Papapietro Perry wines in his order so we can enjoy the diverse flavors from each appellation, terroir rules. And John, Ziggy, you like this one, and I think this is a beautiful way to sum up what you do. Many experts taught me to drink wine, but Ziggy taught me how to enjoy wine.
Great compliment.
Awesome. That's a great way to say that.
Oh, what a
There is a difference in drinking wine and enjoying wine. And when you start enjoying wine,
100%. And there are a lot of people, and we all meet them in our industry, that tend to lose that perspective, and the enjoyment part of it, and they get too geeked out or too much on the imbibing part of it. We were talking about that before we went on air, Kristen, about wine judges and how they judge. And have I ever seen any situations in these big wine competitions that I do? And I have. But, I wouldn't be successful and be on the trajectory and the path that I'm on if I drank a lot. And that's my keys that I hate to bring out this disturbing news, but I'm not a huge drinker. I'm a massive taster, though. I love to taste. I'm curious about everything, whether it's wine or spirits. Like, I just want to taste it all. I want to learn. And I can never know everything, but I'm always like a sponge soaking it up. And, but learning when to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to have a 0 proof cocktail at the end of my day today because I've been tasting a lot of wine, and I want to be able to get up tomorrow and be smart and think on my feet. And
I think she's off to have a cocktail. She'll jump back on in a second. That is funny. And Ziggy, by the way, was one of the judges for the North Coast Wine Challenge. And the North Coast Wine Challenge, we just won a couple of those awards. She's back.
I'm back. It must be because I had a backstage pass and I just like left Stage Center to go backstage.
You did. Well, while you were gone, I mentioned that you were one of the judges on the North Coast Wine Challenge. And we've won some great awards on the North Coast Wine Challenge. And we're thrilled, obviously, of course, with them. But keep going.
No, I was just talking about, being able to appreciate and to be able to do what I'm doing. And, when I keep thinking of all these different avenues that I can go down to be able to afford doing what I'm doing, because as a journalist, sadly, you make no money. So you have to have 80 other gigs to be a journalist. And so, but they all have to involve travel, drinking, eating, travel, drinking, more drinking. And so how do you keep your head on straight when you're doing all those kinds of things? And trying to, especially this last 14 months where everybody, I hate to say the P word, pivot, I'm over that word, but when everybody had to sit there and go, what are we going to do with our business? When 95% of my income went out the window last year, let's be clear, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, what am I doing? How do I turn myself around as a thought leader with all the different things that I'm involved in the wine and spirits industry? How can I keep my head about me and continue to find ways to share my passion for wine and also, of course, for spirits and cocktails and all those kinds of things and entertaining. So I kept a journal this last year, especially when we had to shelter in place, of every single thing that I made every single day to eat. So
I asked if you were if you cook.
Yes, I love cooking. I'm a great home cook, home chef. But we have a huge garden, and so about 80% of everything we eat we grow. So
80%.
Oh yeah, for sure. 100% with everything else. So, I mean, I've got 3 freezers and I've got canning rooms, and like yesterday and today I've been canning all morning, and I love to cook. And so my sister's like, you really need to do a recipe, selection, or maybe write a cookbook and a wine and cookbook and just a Zig book about all these things. Cause I was out this morning picking all the pears and all my apples. And so I just sent my sister a picture of the basket of everything. She goes, seriously, Martha, you need to just make the cookbook happen. Like, this is our life here in wine country though. And it's different, I know, from everything else, but I do a lot in the rock and roll world, and now a lot in the country world. And a few years ago, I was working on a tour, and they had a couple days off. So the band decided they wanted to come to Zigtown and have me cook for them. And they happened to have...
Back up 1 minute. You were working on the work tour, on the band tour as a roadie?
Rock and roll psalm. So I put together wine programs for world tours. Like right now I'm doing the wine for Green Day, Weezer tour that's happening, the mega tour. And so whatever they're drinking in their dressing rooms and on the tour bus and backstage, like I do that. So
I had no idea that was even a thing. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I created that out of nothing years ago. I had been invited to go into the studio with some friends that were recording an album for the first time in many, many years. And it was a big deal because they had this new lead singer. And if you close your eyes and listen to this lead singer, he sounds exactly the lead singer that the band had for many years before that. And so I was invited to the recording studio. They're recording at a very famous recording studio in Sausalito called The Plant. Anyway, fade in, fade out. I brought some fun wines. So I thought when they go to take a break, I'll open these wines for them. And I did. And so we're talking about these different wines. I brought really fun, unique things. And I said, well, you guys are launching your world tour now with your new lead singer and this new album. Like, what are you guys going to be drinking on your tour? And they're like, well, we always put these things in the writer, but we don't actually know what they're going to give us. And I said, oh, well, I should be there orchestrating all that. And I should be in charge of what you guys are drinking. And they're like, okay, done, you're hired. So that was for a band called Journey. So I was the tour psalm for Journey for 10 years. And
that is incredible.
Yeah, don't stop believing.
I won't stop believing. And Ben plays the accordion.
But through that, I met all these other bands. So then I was doing stuff for Heart, and then, blah, 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 on. And I've poured wine backstage for the Rolling Stones, for Elton John, and for a lot of fun people now. And it's just part of my way of keeping myself involved in sharing my passion. Really. And now we have country stars, a lot of country stars.
It's fascinating, though. Well done, because you hear about, X person needs green M&Ms in their room. This person needs that. I love the fact that you also have the ability to introduce some of these, back to the beginning, right? Small-time producers, small
exactly.
that aren't on the shelf everywhere, that they can get anywhere and really give them an experience too. That is absolutely fascinating. I'm so jealous. I think that is so cool.
We're working with the opera.
Oh, you do that? Richard Gere?
Oh my God, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with opera. Oh my God, obsessed. I love opera.
All right,
That's
Ben.
so cool.
Lucas Meacham, who has sang all over the place in Europe and San Francisco and in Napa and that. We hang out with him. He stayed with us when he was doing his San Francisco move to Marin when they did the outdoor thing a few months ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he came and stayed with us for 10 days because they pulled his house on him.
Oh my God!
I know you were going to have a dinner in our future.
Yeah. I would have cooked.
He's a vegan.
You would have cooked.
I would have cooked. I would have done something. I would have hosted.
You are vegetarian. Can you cook vegetarian? I'm assuming yes.
Well, he's a vegan, actually.
Oh, vegan.
Oh, the vegan. Well, I have a
challenge you. Nothing in life is easy.
He had no problem drinking the Pinot, though.
No, see, your priorities.
Yes.
Absolutely right. The Papapietro Perry priorities. You're welcome for that alliteration.
I love. Write that down. I'll copyright that to you. That's easy enough.
I love that we could talk about the differences between the blend of your 5 Russian River vineyards, and then circle it around to talk about clone specific with this Pommard clone release. And I think that 2018 is drinking great now, but I also think it's going to be great in 5 years, 10 years. You guys have always made these beautiful wines that are so approachable from the get-go, but have such beautiful acidity, so they're going to last in your cellar for a while. So,
well, we keep checking in. Kristen and I keep checking in on the older vintages, and we've been very successful. They've held up well.
I am a big fan of older wines, and so when I started at the winery 8 years ago, I started
as a Cabernet drinker, not as a Pinot person. She came.
Oh my God! I told you that one time.
You said that in public. Oh yeah.
I did say that in public. Renee, don't listen.
Loud now. We said that out loud.
Pinot was not my thing because I think I had those big cab drinker Pinots that aren't really Pinot, and it was a little too much for me. And I moved to this valley after I lied and said I liked Pinot. And Ben, your wine is my bar, and I'm very picky on Pinots now because I joke and say I'm not going to drink tonight. And look at these bottles so far; you can't really tell. They're like half and half already.
Wow!
Because I get it in my glass, and I'm like, wow, like you said, Ziggy, it's so good. You smell it, you taste it, you want to go back in.
Yes, it's
we're pouring Pinot. I think you might be part of the thing at Sebastopol Grill, Gravenstein Grill with
my buddy Chris Sawyer.
Yeah, I think that's coming up. I'm not sure exactly.
I'm doing September. I'll probably be there. Next Thursday, I'm doing a fun event that I created. It's my annual event called Kinky Whites, and it's not what you think. But it's about kinky white wines, and it's an opportunity for everybody to hang out together outside in the vineyards and explore and taste an entire night during dinner of nothing but white wines and not any red wines, which is hard to do for me and hard to do for a lot of people I know, because at the end of the day, it's like, okay, now on to the red wine,
You start with white, move to red.
Yeah, so I'm always trying to create these things, events and happenings and opportunities for people to get together and really expand their palate, expand their mind, and have fun together. So now that we're kind of doing events again, which is exciting, I'm excited for Kinky Whites next Thursday. And I'm excited to be here today. And I'm so glad that you guys thought of me. And Dan reached me months ago and just said, we want you for August. I'm like, dude, I can't even think about, March right now. but I'm glad that it all worked out, and it couldn't have been more perfect on Pinot Day. And I know you guys are doing free shipping for Pinot Day, right? So, that's pretty cool.
Great. You guys don't need me. Look at her. She's popping the free shipping, right? Free shipping today, all day.
Free shipping,
half of the night. Anything you want on our website, I say go on and log in. We got lots of virtual tastings. We got in-person tastings. We got all kinds of stuff. But Ziggy, we're at our 30 minutes. I know you have to go. Use the code Pinot Day.
I'm busy.
I so appreciate you joining us. Ben, thank you for getting out of the pool to join us. Everybody knew you got out of the pool.
Today was the third day of our bottling, and it was like it kept me from the pool for 2.5 days.
Oh.
That's a doozy. Well,
the least favorite thing to do is bottling, and that we've had 3 days with 2 more to go.
That's a lot. Well, Krista, maybe you can put up a link to my radio shows, or every Wednesday, my live show, Wine Wednesday. It's on during drive time at 7:30 in the morning on the Crush, KRSH. But no matter where you are in the world, I have a lot of people that stream. You can stream it live at krsh.com. But on the Crush website, you can listen to all my shows from the past year, because they're all on a podcast page there. So if people want to get into my radio show each Wednesday and hear what I ramble on about, I just sip it, I just shake it, I just spin it.
Do you drink at 7:30 in the morning? Are you drinking wine?
7:30. Hello, 7:30. It's like time to drink. So
I'm making sure it's not just Kinky Whites. I like the job. It's amazing. Thank you.
We talk cocktails, we talk wine, we talk planting. That's a segment I started during the pandemic, where I talk about planting something, whether you live in an apartment or whatever, and it can just be herbs or other things, and we talk about what to do with what you're planting, and then we just spin it at the end of my show, because I do a song and wine pairing. So I'm gonna keep that rock and roll in there somewhere.
Well, people here are growing stuff that they don't only eat, they smoke.
Oh
yeah, welcome to California.
John wants you more. You need 20 minutes more per show. You make your shows longer. Ziggy, we've so enjoyed this. We'll have to all get together for dinner, especially when Lucas is in town. But thank you for joining us, Ben. Thank you for getting on the pool and joining us. You guys got
Irish handcuffs down.
Irish handcuffs. Cheers, cheers. Everybody, thank you so much.
Cheers, everybody.